All right, guys, welcome back to How to Build a Blog with Laravel. This is part 37 of our series. And in the last part 36, we worked on the beginning of the tag CRUD, which was being able to view the index of all the tags that we had and being able to create and store new tags that we create. However, at the end of the video, I said that in the next video, which would be this video, we were going to work on the edit and the show an individual tag type of functions. But while working on prepping that video, I realized that I forgot about a video that should have happened in between. And so that's the video that we're going to do right now. That's going to be part 37. And then the edit and the show an individual tag will be the next video after this, because we can't really do that until we finish one last thing, which is what we're going to do in this video. And that's to go through, and we need to be able to select a tag while we're creating and editing a post. Okay, so while we make a new blog post, we need to be able to attach tags to it, and we don't currently have a user interface that allows us to do that. We did that for the categories. The categories had a drop down where we could select the category and choose one category. But for tags, we haven't done that yet. We need to go back to the posts. We need to find a way to attach tags to posts, and there can be multiple tags attached to a single post, so we need to find a way to overcome that. So that's what we're doing in this video. It's going to be working on the user interface and attaching multiple items, multiple tags to our blog post, and then saving those into the blog post and attaching them to the post. Okay, so that's what this video is all about. I'm going to see you guys in just a second. All right, so in order to do this next part, as I kind of just gave you the overview of what we're going to do, we need a way to select multiple items, multiple tags for our post, because our post might have several tags to them. So we're currently using Bootstrap to do this, and there's lots of different ways to implement this from a user experience standpoint. Not going to get into it in this video because, again, this is Laravel focused. This is not a user interface focused tutorial, although in the future with our new dev marketing announcement, which I'm really excited about, for those of you guys that don't know what I'm talking about, we're rebranding this channel from being my personal branding to being kind of a community branding. We're calling it Dev Marketer, and that's because I want to help you guys design, create, and market your next great app. A lot of you guys have really cool ideas for new apps, and you want to create these startups and these all this other stuff. You need to not only know how to create the applications, which there's many tutorials out there on YouTube that help you do. I'm going to help you learn how to create and build those applications with things like Laravel and Ruby on Rails. But then also you need to learn how to market and sell and run the business. And so I want to have some tutorials based on that as well. And so you need to know how to build an application that can be easily marketed. It really is something that needs to be hard coded in. Many of the successful companies in the world have built those types of marketing features directly into their applications, and it really helps them stand out and all that kind of stuff. So we're combining the development aspect with the marketing aspect and becoming Dev Marketer, and that's what that's all about. So that's the new community we're creating. That's why the name is changing on this YouTube channel. That's why all the logos and designs are going to be changing. And I've got more announcements on exactly what that means in the future, but it's going to mean better community support from you guys. I'm going to be having some new Facebook community stuff. I think a Slack channel. We're going to try a bunch of stuff, see what sticks. And we're also going to increase the types of tutorials we have. We're going to still continue to do tons of development tutorials, but we're going to add a couple things like how to market your application, how to do different things like that to help sell your application. And then also part of that will be, I'm going to create some user interface based things, because user interface is very important to marketing and selling a successful application in this age. So that is a video for another day, is the user interface. So we're just going to kind of focus on the bare bones user interface for this tutorial, because we're focusing on learning Laravel as a framework. Okay, so I just want to give you guys a taste of what's coming up, why it's changing, and stuff like that. But as far as how to select multiple items, multiple tags, how can you create that type of interface traditionally? Well, the traditional way of doing that is if you come down here and get Bootstrap, you can see under forms, there's something called a multi-select. And I'm going to scroll down here. Where is it? Okay, here it is. So this is a multi-select. A single select allows you to choose one option. However, sometimes you want to allow people to select multiple things. And this is what a traditional multi-select looks like. It's styled up a little bit for Bootstrap, but this is a basic HTML multiple select. And it allows you basically, I can select one, and then if I hold down Command, if I hold down Command too much, it opens up my shortcuts. Hold down Command and click, I can select multiple options like this, and it's Control on Windows. The problem with that is not a lot of users are used to that. This is although this is kind of the basic way to do it, not a lot of users know how to do this. And so we need to find a more intuitive way to do that. And I'm going to introduce you guys one option. There's a lot of ways to do this. It's called Select To. And Select To is just a plugin we can use. It's based off of jQuery and JavaScript, and it allows you to create more intuitive multiple selects. So to give you an example here, a multiple select here would be, let's say I'm from Utah. So I start typing Utah, it pulls up Utah, I click enter, I have Utah. Well, let's say also I want to do Colorado, I want to add California, things like that. You can add multiple of these selects. If you don't want one, you can click to remove it. And this allows us to select multiple things much easier than with the, kind of the basic or traditional format. So this is what we're going to be adding in this video. I'm going to show you guys how to add this interface through this plugin into our application, and that's going to allow us to select multiple tags. Okay, so let's go ahead and do that. Now, first things first, before we really get into the Sublime or any of the text code, let's go ahead and download the source code for this plugin. Since this is the plugin we're going to be using, we're going to go ahead, download the source code, and then implement it into our application. So for those of you guys, I've got this link down in the description. However, it's just select2.github.io. That's all it is. The link is in the description though if you need it. All right, so you're gonna go over here and then you're going to go ahead and click the download. So it's gonna give you this here. You can click download, select to, and then I just kind of come up here to the main code base. And then you can click clone or download, and I can just download a zip. All right, that's going to download a zip file. I've got that open here. This is the zip file that comes with it. And then the files that we're going to need inside of our application are going to be the DST, or the distribution, and we just need the JavaScript and the CSS. Okay. Now the first thing we need to do is we are going to need to move this into our blog application so we have access to it, and then we're going to go through and actually link the files. I'll show you in a second how to do that. But first thing we need to do is actually move the files into our application folder. Now the two files that are going to be needed out of this, you got this big long download that you downloaded, but everything we need is inside this dist folder, and this is the distribution folder. And it's just basically what the stuff you actually need to run this, and all this other stuff's extra. Okay, so inside this distribution folder, you can see there's a folder for CSS. We're going to need one of these CSS files, and then we're going to need one of the JS files. Now, there's a couple different ones here. You don't actually need all of them necessarily. For example, in the CSS, these are the same files. It's just one is an expanded CSS, and one is a minified CSS. Minified CSS, it's the same code, it's just minified. They get rid of the white spaces and stuff like that, so it produces a smaller size. You can see here it's 18 kilobytes versus 15. Not a big savings. It's probably not a very big file in general if you're not getting that big of savings. He already doesn't have a lot of excess spacing. That's probably why. So you don't save a ton. It's only 400 lines of code too, so you're not going to get major savings, but it's generally a good idea to use the minified code. So we're going to go ahead and use the minified code. So that means we're going to move this select2.min.css into our folder, and we're going to ignore this other one because it's the same thing, just not minified. Now the other one we're going to need here for the JavaScript is basically, I'm going to use the minified version again, but we basically have two options here. You have select2 full and select2. And then there's a minified version of each, okay? So the select2 full, I believe this is with the I18N support. This is the international support. So if you are, I got a lot of international viewers out there. If you're using I18N to translate, you might want to do that, but you might want the full version, so you can use this full min. but I don't think you're really going to need it. We haven't talked about full international support yet in Laravel, so I would probably just suggest you do this one here. So we're going to do select2.min.js. So we're going to move this one and this one are the only two that we need out of this whole file, just those two, and those are the only two that we need to load into our file as well. Okay, so let's go ahead. I'm going to open up a new window here for Finder. You can do it however you need to with Windows Explorer. And then we need to go to a folder called Sites and Blog. And then we're going to store it in our public folder. Okay, so remember this is our actual application here. It corresponds with all these file folders you see here. So let's just pull this up. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to move it into our public folder. We've already created a JavaScript file, a folder, and a CSS folder. So we're just going to put the CSS in here and the JavaScript in here. Okay, so let's just go ahead and do that. We'll move the minified CSS into our CSS folder. And then we'll do the same thing with JavaScript. We'll move the minified JavaScript into our JavaScript folder. Come on. There we go, JavaScript, like there. Okay, in our JavaScript we have select2.min.js, and then now in CSS we've got the same thing for the CSS. Pretty basic. Okay, now let's go ahead. We can close all that. We've got it loaded in our application, and we can see that I've had our application running in Sublime the whole time. So if you go to public and now CSS, you can see we've got it here. And then if we go to the JavaScript and run it, you can see that we've got it right here. Okay, so that's all nice and good. And now we need to actually load it into our view. Okay, so where are we going to be using these multiple selects? We could load it into every single file. That's always an option, which means we move it into one of our partials that load our JavaScript. So we go into our resources and our views and our partials, and we probably have a header where we load our, we already load another style sheet here, our basic style sheet. So we could load the style sheet for select2 in right here with it, and then it will be available on every single page. Or we could just load it on the pages that need it. So you kind of have a decision to make here. So now you could add it here to every single page. Probably not the best idea though, because you're not using it on every single page. You're only using it on like 2 or 3 views. Not very many pages are we going to be using this. So instead of having the overhead of the extra 16 or 18 kilobytes loaded on every single page, we can just extrapolate that out and use it only on the pages that need it, okay? In the same way that we did with Partially. When we used the Partially plugin, we only loaded that on the one page that needed it instead of every single page. Since every page, there's no point in loading up a plugin when you're not going to use it. It just adds overhead to the application, server space, all sorts of stuff like that. Okay, so we're not going to save it here, but this is the one way that you could do it. It's just this HTML style, and then we just link it in. So the way we're going to do it is in our views. So let's go into our individual views, and let's go into the view that we need it on is when we're creating a blog post. So we need to go into our posts. Here it is under posts, and then when we're creating a new post, we need access to it. You can see that we actually pulled in the style sheet for Partially right here, and so right after Partially we can pull in the style sheet for our select2, just like that. Okay, so now we have access to the style sheet for select2. It's available here. It's only available on this one page, and then down here at the bottom you can see that we also have already added the Partially script. So we're going to do it in much the exact same way. We're going to pull in the script for the select2. All right, just make sure that these file names match, and you can tell that by going into your public folder. Let's see, public, JavaScript, and select2.min.js. And by default, this HTML script automatically goes into your public folder. So you just need to tell it where to go after it gets to the public folder, which is the JS/select2, okay? So right here, it goes JS select2.that, and you're good to go. All right, now we might want to add this section as well to our edit page. You can see here, let's go ahead and add this section. We don't need the Partially, but, oh, this is the script. Let's pull that out. Okay, so I'm adding this to the edit page because when we edit our post, we also need access to all of the tags. Okay, so let's go ahead and do that as well. And then let's do the same thing with our style sheets. Remember that the section style sheets is something we added on the main template a while back. It was a way for us to easily, if we needed this section, we could have it. If we didn't, we just ignore it. Okay, so this is an example when we need it, and this is why we talked about it so many videos ago. Okay, so we have select2.min.css. That's perfect. Okay, so now we have access to the actual files, so it's ready to go. We do need to now talk about it, actually load it up, with jQuery. Okay, now the next thing to do is if we go ahead and look at this select2 documentation, we can come over here to examples. It tells you a little bit how to use it. Now that we've loaded up those 2 pages, it tells you how to use it. So the first thing we need to do is we can just create our select form. In fact, we're doing the multiple checkboxes here. So we're going to create a select form, and then we give it all the individual options just like you normally would, and make sure obviously it's set to multiple so that it allows multiple. And then in order to enable this plugin, all we do is we're going to take the class, so whatever class we set this select form up, in our script file, we're going to take that class and just initiate it with this select2 function. All right? So that's all we really need to do to take advantage of it, and everything else from then on out should be pretty easy. So let's do it now. If we go over to our Sublime, we're going to create another select box. So let's do that. Let's go ahead and add it after this category ID. So you can see here we have a select. Let's go ahead and do the exact same thing here. We're going to, in fact, let's just copy it just to make things easier. Copy. And now instead of category ID, we're going to do tag. We'll just call it tags. Give it the label of tags. And then we're going to have our select form here. We're going to give it, we make sure these line up. So we're going to give it tags. And then for each tags, as tag, we're going to pass in. And then remember, we're going to have to pass in this variable called tags. We're going to need to grab all the tags from our controller, pass them into our view. We're going to pass it in as a variable called tags, and then we're going to loop through that with each tag and output the name of the tag. Okay, so these are all the tags. We're going to loop through it with just tag, and then inside of here, we're going to give it a tag ID and a tag name. Okay, so basically the value, this is just like categories, so the value of the option will actually be the ID number, because that's how we link them. Remember, we don't link them with the names. The has many relationship, it has the ID number of the post and the ID number of the tag, and those are what get linked together, not necessarily the name. The name is just for humans, not necessarily for the computer. So the actual value of this option is the value of the tag. And then the name of the tag is just for us stupid humans to figure out what we're talking about instead of using numbers. Okay, so we're going to loop through this as many as we have, and we'll have the value, tag ID, and then the name. And that'll basically create a select box with all of our available tags and then allow us to select them. So let's go ahead and save that. And let's just take a look at it in the browser. So let's come on over here. And, oh, we forgot to initiate it. Let's actually, before we look at it in the browser, we need to give this a class also. So let's come over here to our tags, and we'll say, we'll give it a select2 multi class. You can give it any name you want, but that's just what we want to call it. And then I forgot to also set this equal multiple equal to true or multiple, like that. Okay, now down here at the bottom in our scripts, we need to create a script tag. And in this script tag is where we want to use our JavaScript, or our jQuery. So we're going to grab the value, the class of select2 multi right here. Oops. And then give that the action of, or give that the select2 function. So this should match up with basically what they have over here. So we've got our the class name, and then just select 2, and that'll give it all of the basic options. So let's go ahead and try that out. Okay, now before we test it, I forgot one last thing, and that's that we actually haven't defined our tags value yet. We actually need to pull our tags in from the database and then pass them into the view. So in order to do this, we need to go back to our posts controller. Now you might wonder why the post controller. Remember that, and not the, instead of the tags controller. This is the posts.edit. Look at posts.create. We're working in the post controller right now, not the tags controller. So we need to go over to our post controller. So it'll come up here to app, and then HTTP and controllers, and then post controller. We're going to need to access a new model. So let's just say use app/tag, because we're going to need to use the tag model. And then down here under for create, we are going to go ahead and grab all of the tags. Just like we did here for categories, we're going to do the same thing for tags. So we're going to call it tags equal tag all, just like we did for category. And we need to now pass in the tags as well as the categories. So with tags and set it equal to tags. All right. And now we should have tags passed into the view, and the view can use them. So let's head on over, and you can see here we got to launch the server. Okay. Let's refresh here. Let's take a look at our posts. We're going to create a new post, and now you can see here that we have all of our tags in here, and it worked just as we would suspect. Okay, so we've got all the tags that we want, and we now have the option to select them. However, if we click submit, it's not actually going to save them because we haven't told it to expect them or to save them or to put them actually in the database. Now we need to go do that part, but at least our user interface is working so we can create these tags, and you can see it's grabbing all of the tags that we have. If we go look at our tags, we only have 6 tags here. It starts at marketing, PHP, Ruby on Rails, long post, quick tips, and Laravel. And so now if I head back and we look at these, you can see that we have the exact same ones here. And as the list gets longer, it'll just automatically, the plugin will automatically just pull, a group of them open, and then we'll just search for the right ones, just like this. Marketing, just like that. And it'll just keep adding them in there. So we can add as many as we want. If you guys want to, limit it to 2 or 3, there are ways to do that. You just need to go look at the documentation for select 2. I'm not going to go into all the details of the plugin, but for this is going to do everything that we need for right now. And if you need to customize it, you can go to that website to do it. Again, the link for that plugin is in the description. Okay, so now let's take what we've created here and let's actually teach Laravel how to save it so that we can actually make sure that it's saved and linked to the post. Okay, so let's head back to Sublime over here. And in order to do this, once again, we need to move over to the store function. Okay, so we had it already in the create function. We grabbed the tags, we passed it in. Then they're going to submit that form. It's going to add the tag information into the request, into the post request, and that post request is sent over to the store function. Okay, so now all that tag stuff is in the request, but it's not necessarily put into the database because we need to explicitly define it. We explicitly define the category here, but we haven't done anything with the tags. All right, so now it's time to associate these tags to our database model. So let's do that. Okay, so to store our new tag recording, our new tags into the database, we first need to kind of grab them from the Multiselect. And I want to just kind of we're going to go a little slowly through here because I want to explain how the Multiselect works just so you guys understand. And I think I made a mistake, but we're going to find out. I'm going to show you how to fix it, okay? So what I'm doing over here is in the post controller now, we're going to actually do a command. I can't remember if I've taught you guys this before or not, but it's just DD. It's called die and dump, or dump and die is what I think it is. Die and dump, I guess. So it's DD. It's a Laravel command. It's a Laravel PHP command, and it's just DD, and then you can pass in a variable. In this place, I'm going to pass in the request variable, okay, which means I'm going to get all of the request data that gets passed in when we store an item. And this will be cool because we can actually explore the request variable and see what kind of information is stored in there. And we're just going to output this onto the screen. Now, when I do the DD, which is die and dump, it basically stops the application here. So nothing below here is going to get executed. It's going to stop here, and it's just going to dump all the request variable information onto the screen. So let's just pop over here real quick. And in our project, what we're going to do is just kind of fill in a project. So we're going to call it slug. Let's give this a couple of these variables, and then we'll give it 3 of them. And then we'll just say body, okay, for the test. And I'm going to go ahead and save this. Oh, it looks like I didn't refresh so we actually saved that in the database. That's okay. That's going to be a little annoying, but well, we can go ahead and delete it because we have it. So we can go edit, or how do you, there we go, delete. So we just deleted that post. Okay, let's create a new post now. And we're going to do this again. So we're going to call it title, slug, and marketing, PHP, and Ruby on Rails, okay? And then let's just do this body. And now let's store this again. Dang, it was saved again. Did we not save? Oh, we haven't saved our file. So this is actually unsaved. Let's save our with the DD. Let's save that. Now we got to go through and delete this. Let's create another post again. Try this one more time. This time we saved it. Okay, and try it again. Body. I'm typing worse and worse as we go on. Okay, create post. So now we actually get the die and dump. So we get all the stuff that's saved inside this parameter. So you can see there's tons of stuff in here. You know, we have a post method. It tells you the URL that the request originally came from, the path that it came from. There's all sorts of stuff in here. It has any of the cookies that might be inside of it, such as the CSRF token, the session token. So all that is stored inside this request. Now what we need to do is inside this request parameter bag, you can actually see all the value of all the parameters. Okay, so we have our title, which was title, our slug, and so forth. And this is what we grab out, we validate it. This is actually what the information we're using when we do all of these things, and all of this is we're grabbing it out of that request bag. Okay, and so that's what you see here. Now you do see here that tags, it outputs 3. And that's because of the way HTML works. By default, if you do it the way that we've done it to this point, we do a multi-select, what it'll actually do is output the number of items that were selected. In this case, we had selected 3 items. In reality, what we want is we want an array of the values of those 3 items, okay? Not just how many items were selected. So as of right now, if we were to try to store this into our database and create an association with it, we don't have enough information to make that association. We don't know what actual items they selected. They could have selected any of 3 items, and it would have output 3 because they selected 3 items. What we need to do is have it pass an array in the request of the actual items that we selected. So let's go ahead and we're going to do that this time. And the way we do that is by going back over to our create blade.blade.php, and we're going to, when we're naming our select, we're going to name it with these brackets at the end. So when you come back here to the name, we're going to call it tags to match this label here, but we're going to add square brackets at the end, just like this. That's it. That's the only change that's needed. We're going to go ahead and save that, and then come back over here. Let's refresh it just so we get the fresh HTML. We want to make sure that if we click inspect, and I look at the select, that we have the name is actually called tags, like you see here. There it is, name equals tags with brackets. So then it will work. And let's try this one more time. So we're going to give it a name, a title, slug. And then let's give it a couple items here. So we'll give it 2 items, body of the post, and let's go ahead and create the post. So we're going to get the same thing. It's going to die and dump with our information. But this time, if we go and we look at our request bag, you can see that the tags actually passed in an array with 2 items in it. So it's actually passing in the information that was selected, and not just how many items was selected. This is what we need. If I open up this, you can see it's just a normal array. So it starts at 0 and goes however many you have. The first value was 1 and the second was 2. This is a little confusing because I just selected the top 2. But if I come back here, and let's just do like Laravel, which is like one of the last ones, and then long post. You can see this is number 1 and roughly number 0, 1, 2, 3, and number 6, it looks like. So if we create the post now and we come back over here to the request bag, you can see there's 3 items in there. We have number 1, 4, and 6, okay? So it actually passes in the ID number that we need, and we can use those ID numbers now to associate them in the database, all right? So we've done the part that we need in order to actually be collecting the correct information, and now it's time to learn how to save that and associate it using Laravel. Okay, so let's head back over to our project. We do need to get rid of this die and dump. We don't need that anymore. That's gonna stop our application in its tracks. And let's see. So what we're going to do from this point is we really don't need to validate this. You can if you need to. Just validate that it's an array of numbers. But what we're going to do here is we're actually going to sync the information and have Laravel attach those ID numbers to this post ID. Okay, and we actually do that after saving the post. So we're going to go ahead and create the entire post. We save the post, and then attaching these associations happens after the save. And that's a big thing that kind of gets confusing for people. A lot of people try to add it up here, and it really should be done after the save. Okay, but before we have a success message. So what we can do down here is after we've saved the post, we're going to go to post, and then we're going to set the association, which is tags. We're going to say post, tags, and then we're going to use a new Laravel helper called sync. Okay? And sync is what actually creates that relationship and syncs it up, all right? So the first parameter that we need to pass in when we're using the sync command is the array of all the items that we want to attach, okay? So it already knows the ID from the post because we're attaching this post here. So this post will be saved. It's gonna get an ID number, let's call it ID 10. So it knows the ID of the post is 10, and now we're saying, hey, the association tags that's why we're using the tags, and then we're syncing in and we're going to pass the array for the tags that we want to associate to this post. So every single one of the items we pass in will be associated to this specific post. If we were doing it the other way and we wanted to associate posts to tags, or sorry, tags to posts, no. If we wanted to associate the post to a tag, we could do tag and then grab posts and then sync. And then we pass in the items from the posts that we want to sync to the tag. Now, they work back and forth, and you'll see what I mean here in a second. So what we'll do here is inside of our sync, the first parameter is an array of all the items that we want to attach to this post. In this case, it'll be basically the exact same thing as request tags. All right, so then with request tags, that's going to pass in all the items. The second parameter, which is extremely important that you do, is false. And this is kind of a hard one to explain, but if you don't pass in false as the second parameter, what ends up happening by default is it passes in true. And what the second parameter does is you're telling it whether or not to override the existing associations. So what this means is if, let's say you already have a bunch of associations in your table, if you forget to pass in false, it will just go ahead and delete them all and then set these as the new associations. What we want to do is add them, okay? You might have other associations and we just want to add them is all we're trying to do. So what we're going to do is just sync request tags false, and that's it. And then that will go ahead and create all the items in the database. So let's go ahead and save that. And we're going to go ahead now and just actually save this post in our database. So let's actually give it a name. We'll say marketing post, and we'll put it in our marketing tutorials category. We'll give it these two tags. So marketing and long post. This is a long post about marketing. And let's go ahead and give this post a try. So we're going to go ahead and create the post. It was successfully saved. And now let's head on over to our database and just take a look at what we did. What we would hope to see is inside of this post tag that we have that association set up, and we do. So that was post ID number 9. You can see here that post ID number 9 was marketing post. It's the one we just created. And then it is associating itself to tag ID number 1, which was marketing. Okay, so it's working. And then the second one that it created was post ID num, the same post that we just created, and associate it with tag ID number 4, which is long post. And you remember we did both of those tags. So we've now created that relationship and set it all up. All right. So that's exactly what we wanted to happen. So it is working. As we create new posts now, we can create tags and it works and syncs them correctly. Now we haven't created an interface yet to show those tags, but we will easily do that right here in a second. So let's go ahead and actually do that now. We're going to go ahead. We'll just create a line at the bottom of the post, and then we'll just create some tags underneath for all the various tags that we have. So let's come back over. Let's see. So this is in our show, our post.show is what we're looking at now. So let's go ahead and do that. We're going to go over to Sublime, and let's go to our resources. Let's close all these things. Resources, views, and post.show right here. Okay, so you can see that we've got right here, we've got our main body, we've got the title, we've got the body, and then under here is where we're just going to go ahead, we'll just set it by doing an H1, or not an H1, an HR. That's just a line, and then after that we'll set up a for each to loop through all of our tags, okay? So we'll do for each, and we'll do post tags as tag. All right, and inside this loop, we're going to set up, in fact, we should probably create a div just to wrap all this stuff in. So we'll just create a div, class is tags, and then we'll just close it at the bottom here. Oh, I never opened it, that's why I didn't. There we go. Okay, and then inside of here is where we'll set that. So inside of the for each, we're just going to create a label. So we'll just create a span with a class of label. And I think it's label default. It's just a gray label. And then inside of here, we'll just output the name of the tag. So we'll do tag name like that. And that will create individual tags now for everything. So let's go ahead and save that. We're going to come back over here and just refresh our post. And as you can see here, we've got tag for marketing and tag for long posts. So it shows our tags in here. We've got our category over here. So we are all set. We are now displaying these. The only thing we really have left at this point is our edit. When we edit, you can see that we have a category, but we don't have a place for our tags. So we just need to duplicate what we've already done for our tags and we'll be set. Let's go ahead and do it. So let's come back over. We can close this show.blade.php and we'll open edit.blade.php because that's where we have the edit form. We need to add that form onto into the edit here. And it's going to be very similar to what we did with create. Okay, so we basically just need to make sure we've got our select to script in here, and then we also have our select to style in here, which I think we do. Yeah, we do. So this is edit. We've got our styles and we've got our script. What we need to go ahead and do is activate the script. And in order to do that, all we do is we're going to call select to multi. Okay, we're going to grab all the items with a class of select to multi, and we're going to give them the select to function. That's all that's needed with that. And now we just need to actually create the item up here. So let's go ahead and do that. We're going to, if we wanted to follow now, I'll show you how to do it with the select form. You just need to go form, label, and we're going to do tags. This just gives it that extra spacing. That's how we have on this form. All right, and then we just need to create a select. So for the select, we would just do tags, but we'll do tags with our brackets. And then we're going to pass in all of our tags. And we're going to have to do something similar to what we did with categories here. So we'll have to do that here in a second. I'll show you how to do that. And then we're going to pass in null, which is the default, and then we're going to pass in a class. Oops. And we'll pass in, actually we don't need, our class doesn't need to be form control, we just need to pass in the class of select to multi, all right? So again, we just need to give the select the class of select to multi, because that's how we activate it down here, is select to multi, okay? So we're gonna pass it in that class, and I'm trying to think what else we need to do. Oh, we need to pass in the option of multiple. So let's go ahead and just give a comma, we'll do multiple, and then we'll set multiple equal to multiple. All right, and that gives you the same effect that you see here, where we have right here where it says multiple equals multiple. That just makes it a multiple item. And that should be basically it. We just still need to create this variable, which you don't have yet, but that should basically do everything that we need. Yep, that will be good. Okay, so let's go back to our post controller and let's set up this tags variable. So I'm over here and we're under, let's see, under show. Is this the shows? The edit, I mean. Under edit, you can see here where we had categories and we did this kind of funny business here. We have to do the same thing again. We're gonna do tags equals tags all. And then we're going to do, we'll call it tags 2. We'll create an array out of it. And then we'll just go through and loop through this. And we'll do tags as tag. And then for our code, what we'll do is tag okay, so what we're going to basically end up doing here at the end, oh, and then let's pass it in. And then when we pass it in, what we're going to do is just, we'll call it with tags, and then we'll pass in this tags 2, because the tags 2 is the one that's formatted the way we need. All right, but we're renaming it to tags. In the same way here that cats is formatted the way we need, but we renamed it to categories, so that when we're using it in here, we can just call it categories and tags. Now, just to hit up what we were doing here, this is really confusing. I know this was confusing for a lot of people. I don't know a better way to do it. Not that if you guys do know a better way to do it, please comment below. But basically what we need to do is we need to format it into a special format in order to pass it into our select. Our select is expecting an associative array where the first item in the index in the array is the value that we want to have the select form be. In this case, it's the ID number for the tag. So we need the associative array where the index is the ID number for the tag and the key is the name of the tag. So that's what we're creating here, is we're creating an associative array like this here where so we're taking tags 2, it's an array, we're setting the index for that equal to the ID and the value of that equal to the name, okay? We loop through that however many items are in our tags collection, and then we end up with this item called tags 2 that has the format that we're looking for. Okay, so that's good, and that's what we're passing into our view because it's formatted exactly for this select box. So let's go ahead and save that, and let's show you real quick. We're gonna refresh over here. Okay, it looks like we are running into a namespacing problem again. Oh, okay, I know what we did. We just typed in our, okay, so here we actually typed in the name of the model wrong. So these are mistakes that happen, guys. So instead of tags equals tags, the name of the model is just tag. So we should have just had tag equals all, or tag all. Okay, so let's go ahead and save that and try this one more time. Now we've got another problem. We have an eloquent collection in our database. Handle error 8, undefined property. Okay, so then once again, we had another little error here. It's tag ID, not tags plural, okay? This is the one we're working with. We need to make sure that this says tag and it matches this and this, okay? That's what we needed to do. Let's save this once again, refresh, now it works. And you can see that it is working. It looks like we've got some styling issues here. Let's go ahead and just take a look at this. Under edit, I think what we're going to need, well, let's go ahead and add our form control on here. So we're going to add form control because I think the form control actually clears the space. It does. Okay, perfect. So the form control is needed just to style this up. All right, so now the next problem we're going to run into, and we've ran into lots of problems, I know, but the next problem we're going to run into is that because this is a jQuery plugin, it's initiated after the page is already loaded, it's initiated from the front end, we're not actually going to get these tags inputted automatically, which means we need to manually do that. Now, we already have tested all this, and thanks to Laravel will, using PHP, pass in the default values for all these types of, like the body and everything like that, but it won't do it for this particular item because this is kind of something outside of, this is all jQuery and JavaScript. It's not really something that PHP can handle. And so in order to trigger and get these the tags that belong to this post put into this field automatically when we come here to edit it so we can see what the current values are, in order to do all of that, we need to actually do it kind of manually, and we're going to need to use JavaScript or jQuery actually to do all that. So let me show you real quick how to do it. I hope this part doesn't get too complicated, but we are going to need to use the API for this select to, from the documentation that they have at select to programmatically add these tags back in after the page loads. All right. Very confusing. It's very complex, I know, but you guys should be able to follow along. It's not too big of a deal at all. So what I want to do real quick is I want to show you guys, if we come over here to our select to web page again, and you come down here to the bottom called programmatic access, and this tells you how to programmatically set different values for your field. So by default, when we initiate this, from a normal multi-select HTML element to this fancy plugin HTML element, by default, it's going to have a clean slate, all right? And so after we initiate it, we're going to need to set those values right after that happens. Now you can do that here because you can see here this is an empty field, and using programming, we can just simply set those two values. Down here, you can see how they did it. They basically grabbed the item. When we click this button, it basically just grabs the item right here. This lines up here, so they do this example multi, it just grabs the specific item. So they grab that item and then they set the value, they use .val, they set the value to an array of all of the values of the that we want triggered on this select. Okay, so they pass in an array of values, and then also they trigger the change. Now if you don't trigger change, it actually doesn't create, it'll select the items, but it won't show it with the user interface. These tags won't show up unless you trigger that change. Okay, so this is what we need to do, is basically this part right here. We need to do that in our application. So let me head back over to our edit. And where we are going to do this is in our JavaScript down here at the bottom. We initiate and instantiate and create this element up here. And on the next line, right after we do it, we're going to go ahead and set the values. So what we can do is we're just actually going to grab the exact same thing we did up here. We're grabbing that exact same element. And this time, though, we're actually going to pass in some parameters. Okay, oh, actually, sorry, we're not going to do this. This is my mistake. We're going to set the value using .val, which you guys is a pretty common jQuery function. So we're going to do set the value there, and then we're going to also, we'll come back to what we're going to put inside of there. We're also going to trigger an event called change, like that. Okay. So this is going to, once we set the values in here, it's going to trigger that event called change and then set them right now. So as you can see right now, nothing happens. Nothing when we reload this. Oops. When we reload this, just initiates it and it's blank. So now when we go back over here, we're going to set this and we're going to set the value to an array. And this array needs to be all of the individual values that are included. So we need all the ID numbers is what we need. The ID numbers for all of the tags associated with this post. So you guys might remember that if we used something like, Blade, we could use Laravel and we would say post tags, and this grabs the collection of all of our tags. But what we actually want to do is this helper function that says get related IDs. All right. And this get related IDs is another Laravel helper. Sorry, just like that. is another Laravel helper that just gets all of the ID numbers from the tags instead of pulling all the individual tags. It just gives us an array of all of the ID numbers. Okay, so that's what this is going to get us. Oh, we forgot the arrow here. So post tags get related ID by tags will give us that array. Now this is going to work really good, except that JavaScript doesn't like PHP arrays. They don't talk back to each other very well. So what we need to do is we need to convert it from a PHP array to a JavaScript array. And I already spoiled it. We need to use JSON to do that. So let's go ahead and do that with another helpful PHP function called JSON encode. So we'll do JSON underscore encode. You can see here that you just need to pass in anything you just wrap everything here inside of these parentheses. So we're going to encode this item right here, and this will grab all the IDs, put them into an array. Then we're going to encode that into a JSON array, and then we're passing that in as the value that we want to set and then triggering it. All right, lots going on there, but let's go ahead and save this and come back over to our project and refresh. And now when we refresh, you can see that we have the items that belong, or the tags that belong to that post. And we can obviously add more, but as we add more, we would hope that when we save it, that we can make those changes. So that's the last part of this video, is actually saving those changes into the database. Please watch through the end of this, because there's a big gotcha there that you need to make sure you remember, or you can find yourself in a lot of trouble. Okay, so let's, oops, I don't want to save this. Let's come back over to our project. We're done with our template, so I'm going to go ahead and close that. We actually need to go now into our controller, and we're going to go into this update function, because the update function is where you would save any changes after the edit. Okay, we don't need to worry about validation, so we can just ignore that. And then just like before, we actually are going to sync everything after the post is already saved. Okay. Okay, so just like we did with the save or the store function up here, we did with our store function. Where is it? There it is. We used this. We took the post, we grabbed the tags association, and then we synced it with this relationship that we had. Okay, so we grabbed all the ID numbers that we wanted to add to this relationship, and we told it to sync the relationship over. We're going to be doing basically the same thing over here, but there's one little thing we need to make sure of. So let's go ahead and let's take a look at it here. So we're going to come over here. We're going to take our post after we've saved it. We're going to grab our tags association, and we're going to tell it to sync up this association. Once again, we're going to pass in the array of all of the items that we want to associate with it. And in that case, we just do that by doing request tags, and that takes it from the request. We have all of the ID numbers for the tags that we want to associate with, and then it passes this in. This is a nice little array of all the tags that we have. Okay, so this is everything that we need. Now, in the last time, I told you make sure you pass in a second parameter called false, and that would make sure that we don't override anything that we're doing. However, I'm actually in this scenario, we actually don't want to. We actually want the true statement here instead of the false statement, and let me explain. So in the previous video, when we synced it, we took all the arrays, we passed that we wanted to associate with it. We told it not to false, and what that meant is basically all the associations related to this post, we don't want to override them. Okay, so we wanted to leave them where they were, and we just wanted to add these items to it. However, in this scenario, let's say, since we're editing something, let's say you had 2 tags already associated with this post, and you deleted one of those tags and added a 3rd tag. Well, now our array is going to include this array here that when we save and try to update this array over here is going to have 2 new tags. Let's call it for tag ID number 1 and tag ID number 3. And previously it had tag ID number 1 and tag ID number 4. Okay, so we got rid of the 4 and we added the 3. Well, if we tell it to not override anything, what ends up happening is it's just going to look at this and say, okay, well, tag number 1 is already there, so it's going to skip over that one. And then it's going to look at tag number 4, and it's going to, tag number 3, which might be the new one that we're adding here, and it's going to say, oh, we haven't created this relationship yet, we create it. So now what you're going to find is it's going to have 3 relationships and not 2. It's going to have a relationship with tag number 1, with tag number 3, which we just added, and then tag number 4, which was added the first time, but we later deleted. okay? Because it doesn't delete relationships, it only adds to them, all right? However, if we get rid of this false, or if we either change this to true or we leave it blank, either one, what ends up happening is it takes all the relationships for this post right here, it removes them, and then adds whatever is in this array. Okay, so what that effectively does is delete the old ones. So let's say once again we had tags number 1 and tag number 4 attached to this post. Now we go to our user interface, we delete number 4 and we add number 3, we submit it. It's going to go to this update request, and now this array right here is only going to have tags 1 and 3 in it. So because we don't have anything for this second parameter, what this sync function is going to do is basically delete the relationship for tag number 1 and tag number 4. It's going to delete both of those, and then it's going to add the relationships back for tag number 1 and tag number 3, which effectively deletes the relationship for tag number 4. Okay, so that's why in this case I want you guys to just do it without that false statement here. You can just sync it like this, and this will allow you to basically delete the tags. So let's go ahead, save it, check it out, try it out, and see how it works. So we're going to come back over here. Let's just refresh this real quick, and then I'm going to come over here to our marketing post. We're going to edit it. You can see we have our marketing and our long post, and now we're going to add a third post. So let's add PHP. Okay, we've got 3 now, marketing, PHP, and long post, and save. It was successful. You can see now we have 3 tags. We have marketing, we have long post, and we have PHP. Now let's go ahead and try to delete one. So we're going to edit this, and we're going to delete the long post. So we just have marketing and PHP. We're going to save it, and sure enough, it is going to, it removed the relationship. So it was able to delete a tag that no longer was there. Now, finally, let's go ahead and let's try out one other thing. And I know this is going to cause an error, but I just wanted to show you guys. What if we get rid of all of the tags and there's no tags and we click save? We're going to get an error. And why is it that we get this error? You should hopefully kind of have an idea. But basically what is happening here is it's saying that there is an argument. It's expecting an argument to be passed, but nothing was given to it. Now, what does this mean? Well, what happens is when we do this sync here, it expects an array, some sort of array with all the items that it should create relationships for. Well, what happens is when you leave that select blank, it doesn't pass it into the request, which means that this request tags returns nothing. It doesn't exist. Okay? It's just like, let's say I changed this to something that I've never even created, like monkey, right? Well, I never created a field for monkey, so there's nothing existing for monkey. If there's no value in any sort of field or anything, it just doesn't create it. It only creates values, it only adds stuff to the request if there's values there. So basically, when I have my tags here, but I had no items in the tags, nothing was passed to the request. So this basically did not exist, and we just caused an error there because it was expecting something and we didn't give it anything. So in order to solve this problem, what we're going to need to do is we're going to need to create an if statement and just check if it exists. So we're going to say if is set, and then we're going to check the request and of tags. All right, and if that is set, then we know that there's a value inside tags. There's at least one item in tags, okay? Which means that we can go ahead and sync it. Because the problem we had before was that we were trying to sync it and there wasn't anything there, it was empty. So we know that there's something in there, so we can go ahead and sync it. If not, so we'll just do else. This means that basically there's nothing in the request tags. What we'll do is we're going to go ahead and sync this time, but we're going to pass in an empty array. So we're basically going to say there are no associations. And you might wonder why even do this else statement. Well, this is in the scenario of what we just did here. Let's say that a few items had been added. There were a few tags, and then you went through and you deleted both of them, you saved them. You are basically saying, hey, I want to remove both the 2 tags that were there previously. So that's basically what we're doing here is we're saying, hey, if it's empty, then we're going to sync it up with 0 items. So it's going to delete both of those relationships that used to be there, and then sync it with this empty array, which basically won't create any relationships, effectively deleting both the relationships that used to exist, okay? So this here, this little if statement should solve that problem. Let's go ahead and save it. And we're going to come back here and we'll refresh. And you can see now that it was able to delete them. Okay, so now we add a few items. Let's add a bunch. Save. You can see that we get all those items. Now we're going to delete 2 of them. Save. It's all working perfectly. And now let's just delete the last 2 and save. And again, we have 0 tags. Okay, so we're able to create this pretty well. And of course, if we need more tags, we know where to create them. Let's go ahead and just come back to all of our posts, and we'll just do this on some other posts here. Edit. Let's just grab a couple tags. Save. Back to another post. View. Edit. Save. Back to another post. Let's just find another one here. Oh, this one already had it. And sure enough, we should have basically everything. Now, what this is going to allow us to do now is, well, first, before we quit, let's just take a look at our relationship here. I'm going to come into our post tag, and you can see now that we've got all of our relationships. You can see that post ID number 9 has 3 relationships. It has a relationship with tag 1, 2, and 3. Post 3 has 2 relationships with tags 3 and 6, and so forth, right? This one has 3 tag relationships, and this one has 3. All right, so we've created this. This is our pivot table, and this creates all of these relationships. All these are linked, as you can see. When I click one, it knows to go find that. So everything is working perfectly. Now, in the next video is we can go back to what I originally promised we were going to be doing, and that's that we can now create a show page to look at an individual post, because now we have tags associated with those posts. So now we can go to our tags and we can create an individual show page or edit the tags, and all of that should propagate very nicely throughout all of this. Okay, so that's everything we have for you in this video, guys. Thanks for staying tuned. This has been a really long video, but if you appreciated it, please don't be afraid to like, comment, and subscribe below. If you're just joining in for the first time, I would love to subscribe, and you can always reach out to me, say hello on Twitter. That's the best way to get a hold of me. It's @_JA Curtis, JACURTIS. All right, guys, thanks so much for staying tuned. This is a long video, but I will see you guys in the next one. Lots of fun stuff coming.